Title: 3 Disturbing True New Home Horror Stories. Help this channel grow. Like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more stories. This helps us a lot. Thank you. The story begins: they say a new home is a fresh start. A clean slate. A place where the past can't follow. But sometimes the walls remember what the world has tried to forget. Tonight, 3 true stories will prove that not every house is meant to be lived in. If you're brave enough to keep listening, make sure you subscribe, because some doors, once opened, never close again. When Daniel and Mara purchased the house on Willow Creek Road, it felt like a miracle. The property had been listed far below market value. It sat at the end of a long gravel driveway surrounded by tall skeletal trees that blocked most of the road from view. The house itself was 2 stories, painted a tired shade of white that peeled in long strips near the gutters. It had been empty for nearly 4 years. That should have been their first warning. The previous owners had left suddenly. No public listing of why. No mention of foreclosure. No reports of violence. Just a quiet departure and an empty structure that seemed to repel potential buyers. Daniel believed in logic. Empty houses developed reputations because people enjoyed stories. Mara believed in intuition. And the moment she stepped inside for the first viewing, something inside her tightened. The air felt dense. Not stale, not dusty, dense. As if the house had been breathing in silence and resented interruption. Still, they needed a home. And this one was affordable. They moved in during early October, just as the air began turning brittle with cold. The first week passed without incident. Boxes were unpacked. Walls were repainted. The electricity flickered once or twice, but the realtor had warned them about aging wiring. The house made noises at night, but all houses did. Wood expanded. Pipes shifted. Foundations settled. Daniel cataloged every sound with practical explanations. On the 8th night, Mara woke at exactly 2:13 a.m. She didn't know why she woke. There was no noise. No sudden movement. Only the certainty that she was not alone. Daniel slept beside her, breathing heavily. But the bedroom door was open. They always closed it. She was sure of that. From the hallway beyond came a faint pressure. Not a sound, but the sense of observation. Like standing on a stage in darkness, aware of an audience that refused to clap. She told herself she was adjusting to a new environment. She closed the door and returned to bed. The next morning, Daniel found muddy footprints in the kitchen. Small, narrow, child-sized. They began at the back door and stopped abruptly near the refrigerator. There had been no rain. The yard was dry. And they did not have children. Daniel convinced himself it had to be residue from the previous owner, somehow surfacing through the old hardwood finish. He cleaned the floor thoroughly. The marks did not reappear. But that night, Mara woke again at 2:13 a.m. This time she heard something. Soft movement upstairs. They did not use the upstairs. It was unfurnished and still filled with stacked boxes. The steps leading up creaked loudly under adult weight. Yet the sound above her was light. Measured. Slow pacing. Daniel searched the second floor with a flashlight. He found nothing disturbed. No open windows. No signs of intrusion. But the air upstairs felt colder than the rest of the house. Over the next week, subtle changes began appearing. Cabinet doors left open. Lights turned on in empty rooms. The thermostat lowered to 60 degrees during the night despite being manually set higher. Daniel installed a security system. Cameras were placed in the living room, kitchen, hallway, and upstairs landing. For 3 nights, nothing unusual happened. On the 4th night, the motion alert triggered at 2:13 a.m. Daniel reviewed the footage the following morning. At first, the hallway camera showed nothing. Then slowly the master bedroom door began to open. It did not swing naturally. It moved in hesitant increments. Pause. Another inch. Another pause. The hallway beyond was empty. The door opened fully and remained that way for nearly 3 minutes. Then it closed. Daniel checked the timestamp repeatedly. Neither he nor Mara had moved during that period. The bedroom camera confirmed it. They had been asleep. He did not show Mara immediately. Instead, he inspected the door hinges, searching for mechanical explanations. Air pressure. Structural imbalance. Faulty installation. Nothing accounted for the steady, deliberate motion. That night, they locked the bedroom door. At 2:13 a.m., 3 slow knocks sounded from the other side. Not loud. Not frantic. Measured. Equally spaced. Daniel felt the vibration through the wood beneath his palm as he held the handle. Mara did not speak. She simply stared at the door, her face drained of color. The knocking stopped. Then came the sound of pacing in the hallway. Back and forth. Back and forth. Light steps. They remained frozen until dawn. When Daniel finally opened the door, the hallway was empty. But the upstairs light was on. They reviewed the footage again. The camera captured something this time. At 2:12 a.m., a distortion appeared near the staircase. A vertical ripple in the air, like heat rising from pavement. It moved slowly across the hallway, stopping directly outside their bedroom. At 2:13 a.m., the door handle turned. The distortion lingered for exactly 4 minutes before retreating toward the stairs. No physical figure appeared. Only the absence of clarity where something stood. Mara insisted they leave. Daniel refused. He believed abandoning the house would mean surrendering to fear without proof. 2 nights later, proof arrived. Mara awoke to the sound of breathing. Not Daniel's breathing. Closer. Lower. It came from beneath the bed. She did not move at first. She listened. The inhale was ragged. What? The exhale trembled slightly as if strained through damaged lungs. Daniel slept beside her, unaware. The breathing continued for nearly 30 seconds before stopping abruptly. Daniel searched beneath the bed with shaking hands. Nothing was there. But carved into the wooden slats supporting the mattress were deep scratch marks. Long. Parallel. Fresh. The security footage from that night failed to record between 2:11 a.m. and 2:18 a.m. Every camera. Simultaneously. The following evening, Mara found the upstairs boxes rearranged. Stacked in a perfect square at the center of the empty room. Inside the square sat a single object. A child's shoe. One. Caked in dried mud. Daniel contacted the realtor to ask about the previous owners. There had been a family. A couple and their 8-year-old daughter. The daughter had gone missing. Inside the house. No signs of forced entry. No signs of kidnapping. Search teams combed the surrounding woods for weeks. The parents moved away shortly after. The case remained unsolved. Daniel felt something shift inside him then. That night they decided to sleep with the lights on. At 2:13 a.m. the power went out. The darkness felt immediate and suffocating. The bedroom door creaked open slowly. Neither of them moved. Footsteps crossed the room. Slow. Dragging slightly now. The air temperature dropped sharply, frosting their breath. Mara felt pressure at the foot of the bed. As if someone had climbed onto the mattress. The indentation appeared first. Then another beside it. Kneeling weight. The mattress dipped deeper. The shape crawled upward slowly, compressing the fabric with invisible knees and hands. Daniel reached for the flashlight on the nightstand. It flickered weakly and died. The pressure stopped inches from Mara's face. She felt something cold hovering above her. Not touching. Watching. A faint smell filled the room. Damp soil. And something metallic beneath it. Then softly the mattress rose. The weight disappeared. The bedroom door closed. At exactly 2:17 a.m. the power returned. They did not stay another night. By morning they had packed essentials and left everything else behind. Weeks later, Daniel returned alone during daylight to collect remaining belongings. The house felt different. Quieter. Satisfied. Upstairs, in the empty room where the boxes had once formed a square, he found the hardwood floor torn open. Beneath it was disturbed earth. And within that earth lay a small skeletal frame. Curled tightly. As if trying to hide. Authorities confirmed it was the missing child. Buried beneath the house the entire time. There was no evidence of how she died. No sign that anyone had dug there recently. The medical examiner concluded she had been there for years. Long before Daniel and Mara ever moved in. But Daniel never told investigators about 2:13 a.m. He never mentioned the breathing. Or the knocks. Or the invisible weight that climbed their bed. Because part of him understood something that could never appear in an official report. The house had not been haunted by a spirit seeking help. It had been occupied. And it had only grown restless when strangers tried to live above what it was still protecting. When Claire and Matthew bought the split-level house in northern Pennsylvania, they were chasing quiet. The property sat near the edge of a wooded development, just far enough from town to feel removed, but close enough to commute. The neighborhood was lined with similar homes. Vinyl siding, trimmed lawns, polite distance between neighbors. Nothing about the house suggested danger. It had passed inspection. No prior violent history. No unexplained deaths on record. The only unusual detail was the unfinished basement. The listing described it as spacious, adaptable, and full of potential. The basement door was located at the end of a narrow hallway off the kitchen. It was heavy, reinforced wood, painted the same color as the wall to blend in. A single deadbolt sat high above the knob. The realtor had laughed when Claire asked about it. The previous owner had been overly cautious. That was the word used. Overly cautious. Matthew appreciated security. He saw the extra lock as a bonus. The first few weeks were calm. They painted the upstairs bedrooms, replaced appliances, and hosted a small housewarming gathering. Friends complimented the quiet neighborhood and the size of the yard. Someone joked about horror movies always starting in places like this. Claire laughed along, but she had already noticed something strange. The basement door did not stay closed. She would shut it firmly before bed. She would check the deadbolt. Every morning it stood slightly ajar. At first she blamed air pressure. The HVAC system had uneven flow, and temperature differences could cause shifts. Matthew adjusted the hinges. Installed a door sweep. The door still opened. Not wide. Just enough to create a thin vertical shadow. About 3 inches. Always 3 inches. Then the smell began. It was faint at first. Earthy. Moist. Like overturned soil after rain. It lingered in the hallway outside the basement door, strongest in the early morning hours. Claire mentioned it once. Matthew told her unfinished basements retained humidity. He purchased a dehumidifier. The smell did not fade. It thickened. On the 21st night in the house, Claire woke to a vibration beneath her pillow. Not her phone. Not the bed frame. A low hum, steady and subtle. She sat upright and listened. The sound seemed to travel through the floorboards. It pulsed every few seconds. Matthew slept soundly beside her. She stepped into the hallway. The basement door was open. Not 3 inches. Fully. The deadbolt hung unlocked. The smell hit her immediately, stronger than before. Wet soil and something sour beneath it. She did not go downstairs. Instead, she shut the door, locked it, and returned to bed. In the morning, Matthew insisted she must have forgotten to lock it. She knew she hadn't. 2 days later, they began hearing something new. A dragging sound. Slow. Measured. It occurred only after midnight. It seemed to originate from beneath the kitchen floor. As if something heavy was being pulled across concrete. Matthew finally agreed to investigate properly. They descended into the basement together that Saturday afternoon. The stairs creaked under their weight. The space below was dim, lit by a single overhead bulb that flickered faintly. The basement was large and mostly empty except for old shelving units left by the previous owner. The concrete floor bore faint stains, darkened patches that might have been water damage. Claire felt uneasy immediately. The air was colder than the rest of the house. And thicker. As if harder to breathe. Matthew inspected the walls. No cracks large enough for animals. No signs of intrusion. No tunnels. No structural damage. But at the center of the floor, beneath a thin layer of dust, was a circular outline. Subtle. About 5 feet wide. As if something heavy had once sat there for years and then been removed. The concrete inside the circle was slightly darker than the surrounding surface. Claire asked what it might have been. Matthew speculated it could have been a water tank or storage container. They returned upstairs, unsettled but unconvinced. That night, the dragging sound returned. Closer. Clear. Claire recorded it on her phone. The playback revealed something beneath the dragging. A faint rhythm. Almost like breath. Long inhale. Short exhale. The following evening, they found dirt on the kitchen floor. Not near the back door. Not near windows. Directly in front of the basement door. It formed a thin trail extending toward the center of the kitchen. Then stopped. As if whatever had tracked it there had simply vanished. Matthew's skepticism began to crack. He installed a camera facing the basement door. The first night revealed nothing. The second night changed everything. At 1:47 a.m., the basement door knob turned slowly. The deadbolt remained locked. But the knob rotated fully, pressing against resistance. It stopped. Then after several seconds it turned again. Harder. The wood strained audibly on the recording. The door shuddered in its frame. The knob stopped moving. For almost a minute nothing happened. Then the door bulged inward slightly at its center. As if something pressed from below with gradual force. The wood flexed. Then relaxed. The pressure ceased. Matthew watched the footage 3 times in silence. The following morning they unlocked the door together. The basement smelled overwhelmingly strong. The earthy odor was now accompanied by something metallic. The air felt damp against their skin. At the center of the floor, within the faint circular outline, they found fresh scratches in the concrete. Thin. Parallel. Too straight to be random. Claire felt a sudden, unexplainable certainty that the circle marked something sealed. Not removed. Sealed. That night, Claire dreamt of the basement. In the dream, the concrete floor was gone. In its place was loose soil. The circular outline had become a shallow pit. Inside it lay something large and pale, partially uncovered. It was not a body. It was not an animal. It resembled skin stretched over bone, but too elongated, too symmetrical. And it was breathing. She woke at exactly 1:47 a.m. The dragging sound echoed through the house. Only this time it was accompanied by something else. A soft scraping against wood. Matthew woke too. They both heard it. The scraping came from the hallway, directly outside their bedroom. They did not open the door. The scraping moved along the wall slowly, as if something was running its fingers across the drywall. Then it stopped outside the basement door. A loud thud shook the house. The basement door rattled violently. The deadbolt clanged repeatedly as if struck from beneath. The dragging sound intensified. Then silence. The next morning, a crack ran across the center of the basement door. Long and horizontal. At shoulder height. As if something inside had slammed into it. Claire insisted they leave. Matthew hesitated only briefly. Before they could make arrangements, the final incident occurred. On their last night in the house, the power went out at 1:47 a.m. The silence felt unnatural. Even the usual hum of distant highway traffic was gone. The basement door unlocked with an audible click. Neither of them had touched it. The door swung open slowly. The smell flooded the hallway. The dragging sound began again, but this time it climbed the stairs. One slow impact per step. Heavy. What? Measured. Claire felt something shift in the air pressure as it reached the top. The bedroom door creaked open. The darkness inside the room thickened. Matthew fumbled for his phone flashlight. The beam illuminated nothing unusual at first. Then the light angled downward. The floorboards just inside the doorway were damp, darkened, as if soaked. The moisture spread outward slowly, forming thin lines across the wood. The dragging sound resumed. But this time it was inside the room, circling the bed. Claire felt the mattress dip near her feet. Not sharply, gradually, as if something immense was distributing its weight carefully. The air grew colder. The smell intensified until it burned her throat. The mattress dipped again near her shoulder. Matthew swung the flashlight wildly. The beam flickered, then steadied. The indentation deepened. The shape was visible only through absence. A distortion where the blanket curved downward around nothing. Something pressed closer to Claire's face. She felt breath against her cheek. Not human breath. Thicker, slower, deliberate. The dragging sound stopped. And in the silence they heard it. A whisper. Not words, but patterns. Repetitive, rhythmic, almost like an attempt at speech without understanding language. The mattress suddenly released. The indentation vanished. The air pressure normalized. The power returned. The basement door stood open at the end of the hallway. The next day they left permanently. Weeks later, after notifying authorities of structural concerns, an investigation was conducted. The basement floor was excavated. Beneath the circular outline several feet down they found something unexpected. Not a body. Not a coffin. But a sealed chamber. Concrete walls reinforced from the inside. No external access. The chamber had been constructed before the house was built above it. Inside were remnants of organic material, decomposed beyond clear identification. Fragments of bone too large to belong to any known domestic animal. No official explanation was given. The house was condemned, demolished months later. But demolition workers reported one final detail. When the basement floor was broken open entirely, the earth beneath it appeared disturbed, as if something had moved, downward, away from the light. Claire and Matthew never purchased another home. They rented instead. Always upper floors, never basements, and they never again ignored a door that refused to stay closed. Some houses are empty, some are haunted, and some were built to keep something contained. If these true stories unsettled you, imagine living them. New walls don't erase old foundations. If you want more real, disturbing horror stories like this, make sure you subscribe now. Because next time the house won't just be watching, it will be waiting.